really am enjoying the opportunity to dive into some of the deeper work in the Taoist cosmology and the relationship that has to our bodies. And so if you're joining us for the first time in a while or the first time today, this is a weekly container, and we've been holding this for over a year now. And this exploration has brought us through the cycles of the seasons and has helped us to connect deeper to the way that the cycles of the seasons are represented or represented in our bodies. And in that process, we are in a deep personal exploration as well as a group exploration of how to more deeply relate to our body. We talked in the last few classes about the difference between the self-improvement path, or the self-improvement path being one where we're constantly looking to turn little knobs and dials on our food and what we're doing, which is all great. But this is more of a path of self-inquiry and self-relating. And in self-inquiry, we're moving deeper into a direct relationship with our body and the intelligence that's there, as well as a direct relationship with the nature that is around us. Because as we'll see today, there's a deep well of wisdom, applicable knowledge about how the personal self, is reflected in the large and vice versa. And there's a great passage or line that's thrown around a lot today. As above, so below, as within, so without. That's a line from the Emerald Tablets. And what that points to is that we can learn more about this personal self by observing the dynamics of the external. And we can learn more about the external by observing the dynamics of the personal self. And so this path is really about relationship. The beginning of that relationship starts in the Taoist cosmology with yin and yang, right? That's the first place at which we're able to start to see relationships happen. Before that is the Tao, which is primordial unity, so to speak, or you could call that God, I guess, if you want to take that language, or whatever fits your worldview and reality. But we can say that whatever created this place that we are all inhabiting together had some sort of desire to form a way of relationship between parts of the self. In the Vedic tradition, they would say that Atman, the personal soul, is a reflection of Brahman, the universal soul, right? And so this world that we're all in together is a way of self getting to know self in some ways. And also on this plane of reality, we have the appearance of different parts of self, or different parts that are learning to know each other. And in the process, we are refining consciousness as a whole. I think that's pretty universally understood by most traditions. And so I'll pull over this trusty board, and there are a couple of things that I wanted to dive into a little bit deeper before we get into our standing practice today. So what I have drawn here, again, if you're joining us for the first time today, this is a map of what's referred to as the 5 elements, which are the 5 primordial components or relationships that are extending out from yin and yang. So they all map onto this beautiful sine wave. We can see the yang is the expansive force, the outward expanding out from center like the sun. And the yin is the receptive force. So any polarity, there's a yin component and a yang component, right? So we have the yang is this expanding out into, in this case, we're looking at the cycle of the seasons as a sine wave here, where the springtime, or the wood element, is the initiatory force of growth that moves into the fire, or the zenith of the summertime, the most yang, and then draws back towards the returning to center, which is movement towards the fall or the autumn, which is the metal, and then into the winter, which is the water element. So you have this cyclical relationship of these different components. And there's a lot that we've been going into over the last few months about these qualities and how they are represented in the body. And so today we're going to be focusing on this axis here between the fire and the water, because the more we have been exploring this still point of the water element, the winter time, and what the winter time is asking of us, the more we've gone into a contemplation of our deeper, dark components of self. The water relates to the kidneys and the urinary bladder in the traditional Chinese medicine framework. And we can think of the kidneys as the deep well from which springs life. And anatomically, on top of the kidneys, you have the adrenals, which are working to constantly provide energy for the body. And in the Taoist system, they have this concept of Jing, or essence, which is our physical oil of self, or the oil that we burn in our candle. So we have Jing here on this level. And then here, up above, we have the Shen, which is known as spirit, or translated as spirit or consciousness. And so the relationship, also I'll just note here that the fire relates to the heart and the small intestine. So the axis between the heart, where our, in the Taoist medicine system, Chinese medicine system, where our personal spirit is, and the kidneys, where our willpower is a very profound axis of contemplation. What is the relationship that you have with your spirit, with your consciousness, and how deeply does that spirit move down into the depths of your body, into the unknown of your body? We could think about this as the darkness, right? The unknown. But this is the light, the expansive quality of Yang, the heart, right? And so this axis is what we're going to be visiting today. And there's a really great exploration of this in the Taoist philosophy. And so we've been exploring the kidneys, and I want to take it a step deeper today. So in the kidneys is housed the willpower, or the spirit of the kidneys is called the zhi in Chinese medicine. And so we're going to move this over a little bit. And so the willpower is, you could think of it as the personal zhuzh, so to speak. The zhi is the zhuzh, you know. So that personal quality of will that we bring to life, and that animating force is housed way down here in our belly, you know. The third chakra, so to speak, that power center. And we can bring that out more by bringing, rather than upwelling it from the depths, we can bring our awareness and our center of our consciousness down into the depths to learn to relate more to it. And so we'll be doing that today, literally through some breathing exercises and things. But we explored that over the last few weeks, the willpower. And so today, what we're going to be diving into is this anatomical understanding of, in acupuncture, this point that's called the Ming Men. And that point is translated as the gate of destiny. And so it's a pretty deep esoteric concept, but today we're going to unpack it a little bit in practical terms and try to contemplate how we can better activate this gate of destiny. Because one of the great points of wisdom, of contemplation, or wisdom from medical observation across all cultures, is that people with strong will, not will in that they're exerting and they're doing a lot all the time, but with an internal reason, can stave off infections. And that is a quality of self that we bring out by connecting our spirit, our consciousness, our awareness, and bringing that spirit and awareness deeper into our body. In the myth and meditation class, if you're a part of the Sanctum network and you're attending those classes, we've talked a bunch about how one of the masters of Kai's teaching and lineage was a great martial artist. And what he said was the reason that he can throw people that are 100 pounds heavier than him is because he's brought more Shen into his Jing. He's brought more of his awareness into his body. And a lot of us walk around as a sort of disembodied head, kind of leaning forward into life and moving around in this sort of disembodied way. But a master of this practice has brought themselves down and into their depths and really knows themselves in their depths. And on a practical level, has potentially a higher voltage charge of their cells because they're bringing more electrical conductivity and charge into their body. And so we'll be exploring that today a little bit more in depth. But the thing that I wanted to bring up here was this beautiful map that kind of parallels the as above, so below concept, right? And so one of the qualities of the kidneys is that you have a right and left kidney. And in the Taoist medicine and Chinese medicine tradition, that's seen as the kidney yang and the kidney yin. The left is the yang kidney and the right is the yin kidney. And they help to regulate the endocrine system and the nervous system. And on a more poetic level, you could think of that as the water, the endocrine system, and the fire, the nervous system, right? The electricity. And so the way that life comes to be is through this stepwise progression where you have the Tao or unity that then creates the earth or the yang, the yin, and then you have the heavens. Sorry, these are not very good yin and yangs, but you have the heavens and the earth as these two poles of being, right? You have the sky, you have the sun, and you have the earth itself, right? And the combination of those two is referred to as sorry, it's been a minute since I've drawn a yin yang, unfortunately. But the combination of these two is called the Chong Qi, or the swirling vortex of Qi. And so the light and the dark, or the sun and the earth, these two polarities merge together to create a plane in which we can all participate in, right? The blending, or the middle line between the yin and the yang, is where life exists in this balance point. And so this is the sort of macrocosmic level. And then these two come together to create humanity, which is the third thing that can observe from an outside perspective the yin and the yang. So on this level, you have the Jing, which is that the creation of the physical material that can hold consciousness. And then you have am I going too high here? You have the left kidney and the right kidney, or left and right kidney, which is referred to as the yuan yang, or the primordial yang energy of the body, and the yuan yin, or primordial yin energy. Yuan means first, essentially. And those two come together in the same way at the Ming Men, which is this point between the kidneys on your back. But more than just a single point on your back, that's where they needle for acupuncture to directly interface with the Ming Men point. But rather than thinking about it as a fixed point, this is a quality of the body. And it is the quality to which you're able to bring the yang and the yin together. The yang and the yin is represented in multiple ways in the body, but one of them that I've discussed today is the Shen, or the spirit of the heart, and the will of the kidneys, or the alignment of your personal will with the divine will that's bestowed into us or inherited into us when we are born. And so each person has a unique quality that they are destined to bring out into this world. And by bringing the Shen and the Jing together, by bringing our spirit and our willpower into alignment, we are activating ourselves and creating more vitality. In this practice today, we're going to be doing practices that help to bring the fire of the heart underneath the water of the kidneys. And you can imagine when you bring fire and water together, you create that steam. And the steam is the Qi, right? Between the Shen and the Jing, when these two interface, you get Qi. And Qi is sort of the essence of the body that is on the verge of manifesting into the world. And then the last thing I'll say here is that you have the Shen here. So Shen, Jing, the Ming Men, the left and right kidneys. These are all forces that are interplaying in our bodies to create a vital being. And in this practice, we can actually work with the body in this inquiry, in this relationship building exercise, so that we can actually actively bring more of our spirit down and into our body. I think there's a lot of, not to put blame on anything or anyone, but there's a lot of disembodied spiritual practices that leave people in a state of like airy, floating on a cloud. And this practice is more about bringing ourself more fully down and into our body so that we can more accurately take action and manifest the will of the heavens, as in the Taoist literature, they'll say, bringing that down, bringing that spirit more and deeper into the body is a deep spiritual practice too, rather than the ascension path. This is, in some cases, a descension path, or bringing our spirit down and in. You have this deep well of wisdom from this tradition that over the last, especially during the communist takeover of China, was tried to systematically destroy. And so I think we owe a certain debt of obligation to learn this map of, at least I feel a debt of obligation to learn this map, because it is so complete in so many ways. It teaches us so much about our body in ways that help to personally empower us. And that was part of the reason why it was systematically attempted to be destroyed and translated into a more Western perspective, where they took the spiritual quality out of the medicine to Westernize it. But in the process, they also took out the personal actualization qualities of this tradition. And if you think about a communist nation, it's hard to hold a communist nation in a field of philosophical and cultural belief that really activates the personal potential of each individual. And so part of the class that we're doing here is about the activation of internal sovereignty or personal capacity, and bringing that out to the fullness of its ability so that we can properly make change in this culture in directions that are for the best for all beings. The last thing that I'll mention is that traumas and the quality of our life is often determined by the way that we interpret the experiences in our lives. And traumas and things that happen to us, if we take them to be a victim of circumstance, they actively dampen our connection to our spirit and our destiny, at least in this tradition, what is explained in this beautiful text. If you want to go deeper on this, it's called Nourishing Destiny is the name of the book, with all of this great information. And one of the ways that we actually build the quality of our being and the quality of our Jing is by learning to interpret the things that happen to us in the context of our personal journey or personal destiny. And nourishing our destiny is about learning to interpret the events that are happening to us within our journey and our destiny. And by negatively interpreting or abandoning this quality of investigation in the relationship between the things that happen to us and through us and our own internal compass, we dampen the spirit, we dampen our Ming Men, and we dull our connection between the heavens and the earth, or between our spirit and our depth. So those are all some beautiful ways of interpreting this relationship of the body. And I wanted to bring that in today because as we explore the kidneys and the willpower, and as we start to move out into this new season, this new cycle of the springtime, as we bring our destiny or our dreams, our will to bear on the world and with the world, I think having this quality of relationship will only strengthen our ability to bring out the fullness of ourself, and in turn, hopefully, the fullness of the people around us. And in this grounded way, we can become a tether for our community that helps to process and investigate the world in a way that brings out more fullness in all of our relationships.